to say is, like, so I mentioned Hezbollah fired these rockets at Israel on March 2nd, very early in the morning. I knew about this because I woke up to Israel bombing Dahieh because I live in Beirut. And I could hear it where I was. It like woke me up, and I'm a pretty deep sleeper. So you can imagine, for somebody who's as deep a sleeper as I am, I can sleep through like lawnmowers. Okay, and so for something to wake me up, it has to be pretty damn loud. So it was 3 a.m. Woke up, hearing that bombing. Looked, obviously, like I was like, what the hell is that? Looked at the news, and it had turned out that Hezbollah had launched these rockets. And the Israelis responded by bombing the south suburbs, basically declaring war on Lebanon and issuing these forced displacement orders for 53 villages at 3 a.m. in the morning. 53.
Lieutenant Colonel, if the Iranian claim, and they've made it at the highest level, that they are now holding 173 U.S. service personnel as prisoners of war, from the Delta Force, no less. If that turns out to be the truth, how will that affect the course of the war?
Well, see, this really changes the calculus, and I've seen on open source reporting and local reporting, because, I live, a stone's throw away of Fort Bragg, where the Joint Special Operations, Delta Force, the 82nd Airborne Division are all housed in stations. And, you can see the change in the environment when, the thousands of soldiers that normally live in your town are gone, right? A clear indicator. You don't need intelligence to see that. So knowing that they are deployed, knowing that they are there, knowing that we did move forces to the Iraqi border, knowing that I'm sure we have conducted some type of operation. I do not know the veracity in terms of the number of U.S. service members, specifically in special operations, that have been captured or killed. But I do know that there are some, and it's a larger number than what the administration is telling us. Could those potentially be components of Delta Force? Yes. I don't think that it would be 100 from Delta Force, because there's hardly even that many in a squadron. So it would probably be a complement of Delta Force, Special Forces, intelligence, guys on the ground, probably CIA, probably some component that was going in with Kurdish forces to start some kind of fifth column incursion to the north. And they underestimating the enemy, underestimating the terrain, underestimating the resolve of the Iranian military and the IRGC. So I do believe that there are a handful or a large number of Americans that are killed and or captured, and that will absolutely change the dynamic in the information space, but also politically, because this is going to make the United States look very bad. And we also know that, the United States has not had POWs in large-scale, high-intensity conflict since the Cold War, going back to perhaps Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War, when we had some POWs. That training has since become not used as much in terms of how that train. And I know this because I once in my career, I commanded
operations against Iran and the regional allies. Thus far, Tel Aviv has remained silent regarding the offensive on their land.
Iran sent a direct warning to every neighboring government. If America strikes, your bases become our targets. And in late January, several Gulf states took that warning seriously. Gulf governments assured Tehran that their territory and airspace would not be used by Washington in the war. America attacked anyway, and every single base that was partially evacuated in January was hit by Iranian missiles on February 28th, exactly as Tehran said it would happen. Then, in late February, days before the joint strike, the evacuations expanded. Hundreds of non-essential personnel were pulled from Al Udeid and from the Fifth Fleet facilities in Bahrain. Gulf News reported it was to reduce exposure of forces. Turkey's Anadolu Agency ran the headline without spin. U.S. evacuates hundreds of troops from Qatar and Bahrain. The U.S. said nothing. 3 waves, same bases, same direction, out. And here's the pattern that matters. In January, when nothing had happened, they called it a posture change. In late February, with a strike about to launch, they called it a precautionary evacuation. Now in March, with missiles landing, radars destroyed, embassies shuttered, and soldiers in coffins, they call it strategic relocation. The label got softer every single time the reality got worse. Turkish media calls it leaving. Qatari outlets call it evacuating. The Jerusalem Post cited the New York Times' own softened framing and ran with it. That is not evolving terminology. That is managed denial. Most people think the US is repositioning forces to prepare for a new phase. In reality, it is abandoning positions that Iran made untenable and repackaging each retreat with a gentler word than the last.
Tell me about this contradiction that you have with Donald Trump, your uncle, when it comes to this war.
Well, again, when you grow up raised by a father who doesn't believe in or care about service and has no use for generosity or altruism, it isn't really unsurprising that we end up with somebody like Donald. But it's tragic that the commander-in-chief is not simply somebody who never served, because I don't think that's a requirement to be president. I don't. I think there are other ways to serve your country, but he's never served his country in any way, shape, or form. And as he's demonstrated time and time again, he has contempt for service members. He has contempt for their sacrifices. He is completely frivolous about the way he's going about this. There's no real rationale for this war of choice. He had nothing meaningful or comforting to say after we lost 6 service members over the weekend, and 4 of them were returned to the airbase this morning, and not one person from the Trump regime was there to greet the remains. Not Donald, not the vice president, not the Secretary of Defense, nobody. And that is such a disgrace. It sends such a horrific message, because not only can he not tell us why we are sacrificing blood and treasure, he's not going to do anything to help us get through it when we lose our own soldiers. He is an utter disgrace.
Mary, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had the honor to witness the most solemn moment ever in my life at Andrews Air Force Base, the peaceful transfer of remains after Benghazi. Colin Powell was there, Hillary Clinton was there, Susan Rice was there, everyone was there. It was my pool day, and we didn't know where we were going or what was happening. It happened. It was the most, I get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
You serve your country, and when you lose, there's no greater offering than to serve your country and then to die for your country.
Yeah.
And for a president and his staff and others from other administrations and other parties across the aisle to come and say thank you.
Yeah.
And then this president, y'all, I'm done.
Well, and what's worse is that in announcing the loss of life because of his choices and his decisions, he literally said, well, we'll lose more people. That's the way it is. Oh, really? Is it? He has no sense of what sacrifice means, no sense of solemnity, and he's more interested in his gold drapes and his obscenely expensive ballroom than he is about the well-being of our soldiers.
No, and a new statue in the Rose Garden. And all.
Yes.
I mean, you've got SNAP benefits that are on hold, or they're trying to figure that out. People are still paying costly amounts for health insurance, and he's up here tearing down stuff, building up stuff. I mean, people are hurting, and it's again, it's let them eat cake. And
at that time, Grossi, though, used extremely strong language when he addressed the UN Security Council, reminding member states that nuclear facilities must never be attacked under any circumstances, because consequences of such attacks can cross borders and harm people and the environment far beyond the original target. He warned that strikes on nuclear sites could create radioactive releases with grave consequences both inside the attacked country and beyond.